Out here, this is the one that you've all been asking for. The one oh yeah, the one that this is the stream they've really have been requesting. Ronnie, I can't even. We're going back 2 years that the community has been wanting this stream, and you guessed it. Today we are talking all things lore about the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. I am Andy Cleves. I am the community representative here at Gun Interactive. Over the last couple years, you might have seen me in the official Gun Discord, the official TX Chainsaw Game subreddit. So now you got to put a face with the messages that the discourse we've had over the last couple years. We got Robert Fox II on the board producing us, the real MVP of this stream.
Legit, for real. Yeah.
Well, as y'all know, this is our lore stream. Who better to do that with other than the creative director for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Ronnie Hobbs. Ronnie?
How you doing?
Pretty well. We actually got you on stream.
You did. It's been a couple months in the planning, but I'm here. You know, got stuff to do.
You're a busy guy, man.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy. But we're glad to finally get this done. I know we have been teasing this stream for a little while, but Ronnie's a busy guy, man. We got to give him the time and get him out here, but we got him out here. I guess creative director, what does that mean? What do you do here at Gun?
What do I do here? That's a good question. Now, I think as a creative director, I'm responsible for the overall creative vision of our games. So that means the creation of the game world, the characters, the implementation of all the gameplay features, art, which is obviously the game world characters, writing. So pretty much every facet of the game I have some hand in. Obviously, within those structures are creative leads and other people, obviously, that work in those departments. But I just try to come up with a vision and a design for our games well in advance. Sometimes that takes 6-7 months. Sometimes it could be a year.
Yeah.
And then Gun looks at it, and we all kind of approve, and we all think it's a great idea. And then obviously we work with the developer to create the game and try to keep it, keep our vision intact while also listening to their ideas and their feedback along the way. So, yeah, a lot of that stuff. So.
Well, and I know you've touched on it in the Making the Massacre BTS video that Matt Shacha produced and shot and all that. It was such a good BTS video. You touched on a little bit, not to rehash too much of that, but you touched on how much this film, the 1974 film, the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, means to you. I mean, this project in general, I guess where I'm kind of coming from is like when you first got word, like, okay, we're going to work on the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. This is the next game that we're going to work on. And you sat down to start planning out characters, planning out lore, planning out a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, that had to be so exciting for you. Because, spoiler alert, y'all, Ronnie and I we're both a couple of horror nerds. So I can relate to what a thrill that just had to be when that first came down. And then you got to sit down and start the creative process.
It's kind of nervous at first, obviously, you know, because I mean, you talk about it for so many years before you even get the license, or you have a dream project.
Yeah,
I think if you asked everyone here at Gun what game they would want to make, you probably get 5-6 different answers. Right? Some people have different horror films that they love. Some people love Texas. Some people love Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street or Scream or whatever it is. Right? But for me, the Texas Chain Saw Massacre was one of those films that I saw very, very early in life, 8 or 9 years old, and can pretty much tell you everything about that day, where we were at, what we were doing. Mm-hmm. It was just one of those films that left a lasting impact on you because you'd never seen it before. Yeah. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, and I'd seen lots of horror films at that age, but they were mostly the comical ones that you see on TV and things like that. So, but this felt real, you know, the way that they shot the film, and it felt like you were there. And I think that's what kind of freaked us out as a kid. And I remember just hanging on to that for a long time. And then when I studied film in school, like in film class, Andy's holding my hand. That's fine. You can hold my hand. Then you start to dive into what makes that film special. Yeah. That's not so apparent when you're 8 or 9 years old. Right? So I remember going, wow, okay, studying all about it. And that's when I learned who Kim Hinkle was. Because as a kid, you don't know who the screenwriter is and who the director is. You know, unless it's like Steven Spielberg. But Right. So when you typically watch a horror movie, you don't know those things. But later on in life, in college and before that, I kind of figured out, man, this really is special. Yeah, so.
It is. And I think one thing that always, not only did it have a huge impact on horror, I mean, it had a huge impact on cinema in general.
Across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, it was one of the few horror films that crossed the boundary. Yeah. And it's considered art, right? It's considered. They talk about it when they talk about the best films of all time. Sure. There's only 3 or 4 horror movies that actually penetrate that conversation, and that's one of them. So when we're talking about what game we're going to work on, what game are we going to do next, in my mind, I'm always, hey, what about Texas? What about Texas, Wes? Can we get Texas, right? So, and then once Friday the 13th came out and we were looking for our next project, it became a reality and became a possibility. And you never want to get too excited because you know how Hollywood is and you know how contracts go. Yeah. And, you know, so you may wait a year before you realize that you actually have it. So once that happened, I had already played the game 1,000 times in my head. Right. Yeah. Because, you know.
You were born to do this. You were prepared. You were preparing for this for a long time,
had
essentially.
A good idea.
Is that wrong for me to say that?
No.
You were mentally kind of preparing in case you ever did get the opportunity.
I mean, yeah, that was the same with Friday the 13th, too. We always knew that game would work. Yeah. Long before we made it. And I knew the Texas Chain Saw would work long before we even really got the license. So it was one of those things that to us, it was a no-brainer. To me, it was a no-brainer. Wes was like, yes, this is going to work. We all kind of agreed on that. But then you have to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then you actually have to sit down and start and create the world and create the characters. And like you said, that's kind of where, you know, Kim Hinkle comes in.
Yeah. And
all the backstory.
To kind of kick off everything, we're going to kind of reminisce a little bit more about how it all started with Maria Flores. So like that whole creative process to sit down and actually conceptualize, you know, the catalyst for our game and the characters built around that. Where were some inspirations and ideas that
the story itself? And when we got the license, we had several options that we could have done. Obviously, we could have tried to recreate the '74 film and let you run around as Pam, Jerry, Kirk.
Sure.
Sally and Franklin and everyone, right?
Yeah.
But you know how that story ends.
Yeah.
Right? So if Sally doesn't live, are you mad? So what we didn't want to do was just kind of recreate that time frame. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do a sequel because we know what happens. Sally gets away.
Yep.
So how could the family still be there? We know what happens in part 2.
Sure.
Right? They've relocated, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in my mind, the prequel was the only way to do it, that we could have anything interesting and new. So when I went to Kim with that idea, and when we mentioned it to them, Kim was like, yeah, okay, let's think about that and see what you have. So that's when I just kind of tried to come up with some characters that I knew you would empathize with. But at that point, I didn't know who they were.
Sure.
And I didn't know who the new family member was going to be. This is really, really early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of sat down with Kim and we started just doing some rough ideas, but I didn't really even know what I wanted to do until I went to Texas. So when you're asking me about Maria and Anna and where they came from and where Johnny and Sissy came from, a lot of that was from me just in Texas.
Just traveling around and seeing and.
Yeah.
Because you traveled to hundreds of towns.
Oh, easily. I mean, a lot of our team went to Texas. So, Matt went to Texas, Ish went to Texas.
Yep.
Personally, I went to Texas about 6-7 times by myself.
Sure.
Plus the trips with Matt and Ish. So pre-COVID, over the course of COVID, I was just driving around Texas. So, and it was different than Friday because Friday we had lots of film reference. There's not a lot of film reference for Texas, a movie that's that old, right? And we really felt we wanted to recreate the world of Texas so that when you play it, it's actually Texas you're walking around in, and that's through photography and photogrammetry, right? And that's where our Matt trips and Ish trips came in. We were capturing lots of real photos that were used in the game world. Mm-hmm. But that kind of turned into, hey, we need photos, but also go meet with Kim. And then while you're there, look around. And it was the looking around part that turned into like an obsession.
Yeah.
It went from looking around 1 day to 2 days to 3 days to 12 days to probably 60 or 70 total days. Probably a month and a half or 2 total days of driving and talking to people and exploring cities and taking photos of old farmhouses or old slaughterhouses or just the wildflowers. And it was really a wildflower trip that I took by myself way, way, way back in the day. I'd never known about the Texas wildflowers. Even though I lived in Texas for like a year, I'd never seen them before.
Yeah, because you have to be there at a certain time of year.
It does. It's about for about a month in March and April when they appear. And people come from all over. So I go, I want to see this. And it was that trip when I decided that Maria, that was going to be the connection. Because when I was talking to Kim, I'm trying not to ramble here, but when I was talking to Kim about a new family member, I was expecting a lot of no. Because you work with Hollywood, they take it very personally. It's their characters that he built. He built the hitchhiker and the cook and Leatherface and the family as we know it. So for me to come up to him and say, oh, and by the way, I'm going to create this guy named Johnny who really doesn't look like the family. And people are going to find out later he's not blood related. I'm going to take away the focus from Leatherface, from the hitchhiker, from Grandpa, from the cook, and I'm going to put the entire focus on this new character who doesn't even look like part of the family.
Right.
And I'm going to use him to tell the story as like the catalyst. And I was expecting him, honestly, to just say, why not just use Sissy? I already have a backstory for her. Or maybe Johnny should be in the background a little bit. Maybe she runs into the hitchhiker. But in fact, he said, that's a great idea. And that kind of threw me for a loop. And that was my starting relationship with Kim of it wasn't no's across the board. It was, that's a great idea. You're like, what? So that's kind of how he thought it'd be cool to let me use Johnny. So
you had to be fanboyed so big in that moment.
No, it was really great because it was refreshing because
yes,
for him to listen to ideas and not just listen to them, but go, yeah, let's use Johnny as that person who can go away from the family and interact with poor Maria.
Yeah.
So I knew I had Johnny. I knew I wanted him to be out and about, and we can get back to him later.
Yeah, and we will.
But really traveling around aspect of seeing the wildflowers and then knowing that I wanted one of the 2 sisters to be on that trip.
Sure.
I really loved the idea of 2 sisters, an older one and a younger one. And I knew I wanted the younger sister to try to come save the older sister because she mentally would be less prepared to do that. And I wanted to put that focus on Anna. And I felt that would be better than the older sister trying to find the young one, which you see a lot, right?
Yeah.
I wanted this young girl to try to like, oh God, right? So that's where that came from, but we can get into those characters a little more specifically.
Yeah, we will. And just so everyone's clear, we're gonna break down we're going to go through victim by victim, family by family member. We're going to touch on a lot of things here. Ronnie, at the end, Ronnie also shared the story of the his Instagram, shared the post about this stream to his Instagram story.
Yep.
He took about like 8 to 10 questions that we'll do at the end. But we're going to try to roll through this because we don't want to sit here for 3 hours going through.
Yeah.
But we also, we want to make sure this was such a highly requested stream that, we want to make sure that we cover a lot of bases here and get you guys all the information you can.
Yeah.
One thing as a diehard fan of the original film myself, and just a diehard horror fan in general, some things that I've liked that you have done is finding connections from our characters that you've created to the OG family members like Hitchhiker and Leatherface and Cook. One, for instance, that I just think is super cool is the Polaroid camera. The camera that Hitchhiker has in the '74 film, he got that from Maria.
Yeah.
So those are the connections that I really dig, and like, how did you even think of that? Just it's so cool to me, man.
The camera thing was actually very interesting because I knew I wanted Maria, this sweet, beautiful, hardworking girl who had worked her way from nothing.
Sure.
Finally got a chance to go to college. Their dad passed away a couple years earlier. Maria's working jobs, trying to take care of her younger sister, Anna, and her mother. Mm-hmm. She finally works hard enough. She gets to go to college, this awesome college, UT, right? And when she gets there, she wants to study photography. And her family had saved up money to buy her this camera. So it meant a lot.
Right.
Right. And she's out taking photos. Yeah. And unfortunately, she runs into Johnny. There's a saying like the wildflowers bring out rattlesnakes. That's what they do.
Yeah. Because
the rattlesnakes come to look for prey in the flowers. When you're walking around the flower, you have to be careful. Yep. And I always picture Johnny as that rattlesnake, right? Yeah. Maria just being there trying to take photos. But she had a camera. And there was one point in development where I was talking to Wes, and he was like, where'd she get this camera? And I was like, well, that's a good question. We should figure that out. And because at this point, we hadn't even designed what the camera looked like. Right. Right. And it was like just an object. Yeah. Because you have to design these things one at a time. And that's when I think either he or I were like, wait, that's the Hitchhiker's camera. Right. Behind the scenes, that's what we wanted to do with it. But then we had to get Kim to say yes. So once again, there's another example of where you would expect to know from Kim. Sure. Turns out that is an incredible idea. And we're like, imagine that, because it's such it's the Hitchhiker's camera, right? He carries it around, and it's so
memorable. That whole van scene with him when they pick him up, that is such a memorable scene from the film.
So in order for him to let us tie that to Maria and give validation to her character. Sure. That's an incredible thing to ask of someone who created one of the biggest horror movies ever made. Absolutely. And he said yes. Or else we would have had to make a generic camera. Sure. Right? So she would have always had a camera taking photos, but to be able to tie that in, that's just remarkable for us. And it's a really cool feeling knowing that when you watch that movie, like, that's Maria's camera you got there, buddy. Yep. It belongs to Maria, asshole. Right? So that's a really cool feeling, I think. So,
speaking of things that belong to Maria.
So, by the way,
there you go, sorry. Buddy.
If you notice on the missing persons poster, it says brown satchel. This is it. This is the only one that we have, by the way. And look at you. Our old lady blanket. Nancy's blanket is falling down.
It's falling apart.
But this is her satchel, and it's the only one we have. And
that isn't original.
It's been driving her. I've had it in my truck, in the front seat of my truck for about a year now. I don't know what to do with it. So we should probably just give it away to someone.
Maybe.
That's up to you all, though. So you'll have to coordinate. Sorry, social team. But we could possibly give this away. So you let us know if you think you want to maybe win this or something, because this did belong to Maria. It's actually hers. Wait, what's in the pocket? Okay, nothing.
It's beautiful.
So anyway, it's a really cool bag.
It is.
We're not going to tell you where it came from, but other than Maria. So anyway, that's her bag. So if you're wondering why we have a woman's satchel next to us. So yeah, let us know if you think you want to win that, and we'll try to think of something cool. Unless it's also teams like, Ronnie, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But yeah, proceed.
But so let's start going through the victims in a little bit.
All right.
These are more generalization questions about the victims, and these are things that I've kept my eyes out on. The community, the last couple of years, I've seen all these questions. All of us here on the community team have seen it. So luckily, when I tell you things like when we tell you on Reddit, we'll notate it, we'll pass it along. We mean that, and this is
And they're passing it along to me. And they're like, Ronnie, give us an answer. Yes.
Confirm. Do I pass things along to you?
For the record, Andy does come to my office routinely and be like, hey, man, you got a minute? Right, and that minute's usually about an hour. And he's like, I got a couple questions. Here's 700 of them. And I'm like, Andy, I appreciate it, bud, but
bro, I got like 500 lines to write.
I
Get
usually
the hell out
say,
of my office.
I'll get back to you. And therein lies the problem. I don't get back to him. Or I get back to him with like 2 answers out of like 700. So don't yell at Andy if he can't get you the answer you want. You can yell at me. Because he's trying.
I do. We try. We all do. But always keep that feedback coming on all our socials. Sid, Jet, myself. We're always listening. We're always passing it along. So
what? Feedback?
Yeah, always.
Or questions?
Questions, feedback. Yeah, no. All
I like to
it.
mess with Andy. So
But let's see. Let's move on.
who we got first?
So this is more of a generalization question, but as far as like we know our victims outside of Anna, of course. Went to the University of Texas. They're students at the University of Texas. How did they all link up? Like Leland, Sonny, Julie. Who met who first? Like who's in the like? How did that all come about?
Yeah. Let me rewind just for 1 second.
Sure.
So on those trips,
Yep.
I went to several towns in the Southwest. I was trying to find the home where these girls lived, like the perfect town in real life where Anna and Maria could come from.
Sure.
So there's like Medina, there's like Bandera, Uvalde down there, and there's a section. There's a heavy population of Latinas.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went there, I didn't know that. And I spent several days in that town walking around, just taking photos and chatting with anyone that I could.
Sure.
And it's a small town, so they knew I wasn't from there. So eventually you talk to conversations about like, hey, the antique store owner or some coffee shop or a cafe and a waitress. But the one story I routinely heard over and over and over, especially from young females, it was really strange. It was mostly young females about how they were in a single parent home. Their parents had moved here from Mexico, and they had to help support the family. Yeah. And there was this common theme over and over and over. I mean, I probably heard 10 different stories out of 60 people I spoke to. So no matter what the job was, there was a consistent theme about that girl in high school having to work a job just to help support their mother and their younger sister because the dad had died earlier or they weren't around. And it was a kind of an amazing thing, and that's where Anna and Maria came from. And I love that idea of two sisters trying to overcome things when they had very, very little. So I knew the town where I wanted them to live. Mm-hmm. That's about 100 miles away from Austin. So I knew I needed to get them to Austin to go to school to meet all of her current friends. So a lot of people are confused about Maria and Anna. Anna's back home.
Yes.
So Anna still lives back home. She just now graduated. Yeah. So she doesn't, I don't want to say this yet. We'll get to her in a second. But Maria goes off to college. Yep. And it's there that she meets the current group of victims that you know and play as in our game. In particular, she met Leland because Leland's high school mascot is actually the Coyotes. So in our game, Georgetown Coyotes. In real life, not so much. Uvalde is Coyotes. So she sees Leland. She sees Leland with his Coyotes shirt on. She's like, "Take that off, dude. You're not the Coyotes. We are." Like, no, bro. You know. And she
competitive spirit.
Yes, she gets up in his face, kind of like in a joking manner, and he's like, "Who is this girl?" Right? What do you mean, take it off? And then he's like, "Oh yeah, you go to school there." And that's how they met. Really, was just Maria confronting Leland about some silly shirt, a mascot he had on his shirt. You know, it's a jokingly kind of thing. And then they slowly became friends. And Leland said, "Hey, meet my other friends here." You know, so Leland had already known Julie and Connie and Sonny and stuff like that. So really,
they were already a little clique on.
Yeah. So Maria was introduced to them, and that's how they got to know Anna. So Anna is basically the little sister. Yeah. You know, so And of course, that's when they meet Danny as well. Danny's part of that group. And that's when Danny and Maria meet and they start talking about their past and they kind of hit it off and kind of fall in love because they have similar upbringings, which we'll get to in a minute. But that's really how they met.
Sure.
So meanwhile, Anna's still back home. She doesn't get to go to college yet. She may not ever get to go to college. You know, the family saved that money for Maria, not Anna. So there's a whole story about Anna here that we'll get to. But yeah, that's kind of how they met, was because he had the Georgetown Coyotes jacket on.
Yeah, and the level of responsibility that comes with that for Anna too. You know, it really makes sense for the character and of the groundwork of how she was created.
How tough she is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think she's definitely one I think a lot of the community gravitates to. How can you not? I mean, literally, how can you not in my life?
Well, you'll hear more today, and you'll really like her. So she'll get some more sympathy votes today.
Yeah. One other thing I want to touch on real quick. We'll do this real quick, and then we'll get to victim by victim. It's kind of cut from the same cloth as the hitchhiker's camera that he got it from Maria. Another thing that I like that you did that connects to the first film is the setup for our victims, how they got there, and the usage of. Well, actually, why don't you just tell the story? I don't want to spoil it. We have maybe shared this in a hub post a couple years ago. I'm sure some of you already are aware of this, but some of you, I bet, are not. The setup of our game of how the victims got captured and all that.
Yeah. So when I was talking to Kim about the story,
Mm-hmm.
I told him just flat out from the beginning, I go, I don't want to just do the kids ran out of gas, right? I don't want them to meet Leatherface, and that's how it happens, or the hitchhiker. Sure. That's why I want Johnny to go out, take the focus away from the house. Even though it's such a symbol in the first film, I need this new character to kind of bring our new kids there on purpose, as opposed to, we're lost, knock on the door, and they get killed, right? And he was like, okay, that's interesting. And that's like, that's where the wildflowers come in. That's where Maria comes in, and that's where we have this stalker, serial killer version of Ted Bundy and Richard Ramirez and all these other weird serial killers mixed into this person who can go out and do these things. And he's like, I like it. And he's like, so how are the kids going to find them? And that's always a tough thing to do.
It is.
So the investigation goes into Maria. They find her car on the road where the house is. So that's where they find the car. That's in the news report. In our first trailer, you know, the police do find her car. There's no signs of foul play in the car.
Yeah.
So that would be her looking for wildflowers, right? Getting out, parking, things like that. Unfortunately, she never got back in the car. Yeah. But it looks normal. There's no signs of struggle. There's no blood. So they do know that she was last seen around that area. Right. And that's a report that comes out. So Anna hasn't heard from her sister in about a week. And that never happens. They're very, very close. Maria always calls home. Even Leland and Danny and all those people, Connie, they haven't seen her, you know. So they're like, something's weird here. And Anna is taking the responsibility of saying, this isn't right. Like, I'm not just going to sit here 100 miles away while my sister is missing. And that's where the younger sister getting the courage to, like, go find her older sister. Because it'd be easy to just sit 100 miles away and go, I don't know what to do, Mom. What are we going to do? Let the police handle it. But she's not. That's not Anna.
That's not in her DNA at all.
Yeah. So she's like, no, we're going. Yeah. So she calls her friends. She calls Maria's friends and go, have you seen her? Anybody heard from her? And they're like, no, we still haven't heard from her. So Anna says, you know what? I'm coming, and we're going. And it's Anna that initiates the thing. So Anna's not at college. I've seen some people think that. Yeah. Anna's back home 100 miles away. Correct. And she's the one that wrangles Maria's friends, although they want to go.
Yeah, they want to go.
It's Anna that initializes the whole conversation.
But Anna's the leader of the whole mission.
So now we have them all in the same car, except Danny.
Right.
So Danny's different. So,
and we'll get to that, why that is later.
So then they're going just based off, she was last seen in Newt. Her car was found on this road. And as you know, in any small town, the first place you go is the gas station. You always stop at a gas station if you need directions.
Especially in this time.
Yeah, or the police station.
Even nowadays.
Or a police station. Yeah, especially in a small town. There ain't a whole lot of structures. Absolutely. Right? So they had a game plan and a direction to go to. So they weren't just hunting blindly. And that was very important for me. I didn't want them just to stumble upon a location. So when they get to the gas station, the cook realizes, he sees the missing persons poster that they hand up, and he knows who they're looking for. And the cook's like, here we go. Once again, I got to clean up everybody's mess. So it's that point where the cook goes, you know what? I think I recognize her, kind of, maybe. You know, I tell you what, though, it's getting dark. I live up in that house. I got a campground out back. People use it all the time. It's safe. How about you camp there tonight, and then tomorrow, I'll see if I can't help you. I'll take you into town or whatever, you know, whatever spin, whatever snake oil salesman he puts on the spin, right?
He's
and they
good
go,
at that.
Yeah, they go camping at the campsite you see in the original film.
And that's what I was.
That, you know, Kirk and Pam walk by.
Yep.
And you can see a little watch hanging there. You can see some remnants of a tent.
Yep. It's only a few frames.
Yeah.
You know.
So the family, once they're camping, the family kind of comes out and ambushes them and drags them back to the house and captures them. So that's kind of how our story kicks off.
Yep.
Of the cook knowing that he had to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool to tie that to the original film. Once again, that's another scenario where Kim said yeah.
That's so cool.
And it played out a similar way. I think we were talking here, me and Wes and maybe some other people, and like, well, where'd they go? How'd they get there? Where'd they stay?
Yeah.
Like, when do they get captured?
Yep.
How? So that little piece of that moment from the film perfectly allows us to do that.
Yep.
So that's kind of how we tied that together.
And again, I'm going to repeat this a lot. I'm a huge fan of the original film. Can't hide it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But the horror nerd in me appreciates these kind of things. And, you know, like I said, it's really, you can only see it in a few frames in the final cut of the film. But there is a deleted scene of that as well.
Yeah.
I think you can even find that on some behind the scenes.
One of the cuts.
Yeah, one of the, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a deleted scene where Kirk and Pam do go to this campground. So to kind of like lean into that even more for this, I love it as a fan.
It was awesome, like just to put a bow on.
Yeah.
You know, and it would be fine without it probably, but it was cool to tie that together.
No, so. That's with Hitchhiker's Camera being Maria's and that tie-in. Yeah. Those are the kind of things that really just hit me in the heart and just I love.
Yeah, it's more authentic that way, and that's kind of we obviously we try to focus on that. So if it's there, try to use it.
Yeah,
in a way if it makes sense. So,
well, you want to start off with Sonny?
Let's go. What do you want to know about Sonny?
Well, let's see.
About his girlfriend.
Oh,
that no one knows
love
about.
Interest for Sonny?
Yes. So people really don't know a lot about Sonny.
Yeah.
They know he's kind of a nerdy guy, I guess, a little bit, because he's smart. I guess they assume he's a nerd, and he is. But yes, he does have a girlfriend. Just so we're clear, like there's a lot of stuff that I created, a lot of miscellaneous things for this game. Sure. That never see the light of day. Sometimes they're pieces of concept art just because I want to visually see it happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's text. Sometimes it's lots of variations of the script. Sometimes it's VO lines that get thrown away. I've made structures that get deleted. There was one corpse I made that was so disgusting that we took it out of the game. Like it was too much. So there's full 3D models of this gore and things that we made to put in the game to see how it looked, and then we delete them. So Sonny's girlfriend never got deleted, but what I didn't get to do was create concept art because it wasn't a main character.
Right.
So a lot of these relationships are things that I know that I never got around to making concept art for because they were never going to be playable. They're not in the game, and it's just lore-based. So unfortunately, I don't have this of her.
Okay.
But, her name's June.
I was just going to say, does she have a name? June.
She does. It's June. And what's funny is I never really got around to deciding what she looked like. But I do know she was very important to Sonny. So if the community wants to take a shot at like creating June or what they think Sonny's girlfriend looks like, that'd be great. And you can just send it to me.
Get on it, folks.
You can send it to Andy or me or, whatever you want to do. But it'd be cool and interesting to see. But she's nerdy like him. And, Sonny's into like 2001, The Space Odyssey.
Oh,
like
as am I.
He's into like War of the Worlds and like the early Godzilla films. Like he's a
50s sci-fi buff, ain't he?
He is, but he's got some slick clothes, right?
Right.
So you don't.
He does got the drips, man.
Does.
He
so
really does.
You don't really expect that out of him.
Yeah.
But that's where his intelligence level comes in. He's really just a big nerd. And him and June are like these. She gave him a bracelet. So some of some other items. So some of Sonny's clothing could be from June, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you ever seen two people that are afraid to like fully commit, but they like each other and they don't know what to do?
Sure.
They're both afraid to like kind of make the first move. That's them.
Yeah.
They're like this cute, nerdy couple that doesn't really know what to do, and they just like adore each other. But that's Sonny. He's such a nerd. But yeah, he does have a girlfriend.
Oh.
Her name is June. I don't know what she looks like.
Well,
I never got around to making her.
I'm going to go on a limb here.
Yeah.
But I'm going to suspect that we will see some fan art of June
Yeah.
in the coming weeks.
So,
and days.
you know, she watches
Never
she watches the
underestimate
movies
this
with
community.
him. Yeah.
They are.
So Sonny's really like the biggest sweetheart in the world. Like because he's just such a nerd. You know, and of course because of that he's going to go, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the toughest guy in the world, but he's definitely going to go try to find his friend.
Sure.
So he tells June, "Hey, I'll be back."
He may not use his
And that's like the last thing he said to her was, "I'll be back."
Yeah. He's going to use his
you know,
wits.
And
He's
she's
not
like,
gonna
"Here,
use
take
his
this,"
muscles.
and
Take
it's
this.
jewelry, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Sonny. But yeah, he's just is Sonny.
Is there anyone in the original group that he's closest with, like a Leland, Julie,
What's funny is Leland is his boy.
So
Oddly enough, they are really, really close.
okay.
And yeah, it's in that big brother kind of way, pick on you kind of way. And he's trying to give, I always pictured Leland giving Sonny girlfriend advice. You know, like, come on, dude, just talk to her. Like, what are you waiting on? You know, imagine like talking to the guy who doesn't want to make a move at all. And Leland's just like, whatever, dude, come on, bro. Just make a move.
I just visualize that in my head, and it's like absolutely perfect.
Because you know whatever advice he gave him would be wrong.
Right?
You know, we've seen that.
Absolutely.
We've seen that in every movie, right? Where it's like, oh, just do this, man, and they do it, and the girl laughs at them, right?
Yeah, you think the wrestling jock from Georgetown, Texas would know, but
And then June kind of laughs at him, like, quit being stupid,
quit listening to Leland.
quit being dumb. Where'd you get that at? You know, so that's how they're dynamic.
Leland told me, well, stop listening to Leland.
Yeah, but you know, I think you can see where that goes.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'd say they're definitely the closest, Leland and Sonny.
That warms my heart. And it's cool too because they're kind of in a sense polar opposite. One's kind of a jock, and then or not kind of. He is. Yeah. He's an established jock and wrestler in Georgetown, Texas, and Sonny's the one that uses his wits and his brain to beat you, not his muscles. So it's
the contrast.
Yes,
and that's why it works.
Yes,
if there was another nerd, I wouldn't want him and Sonny to be friends.
No,
that'd be obvious.
That'd be obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things I've never just told anyone. These are all these things that help define the character as we're making them, and to help me figure out who they are. So, Andy's hearing it for the first time too.
Yes. So, it's very true. I wanted to learn just like as you guys are right now. So, this is so far this is a lot of fun. I'm having a blast, guys. I can't even tell you. Let's move on to Julie, who I lived in Los Angeles in California for 15 years myself. She is a sporty SoCal girl.
You kind of have to be.
Yeah. Voiced by the great Scout Compton.
Yep. Who's also a California type of girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So as far as Julie, let's see what we got here.
What do people want to know about Julie?
Well, I would say from what I see around our community, I feel like she's the one I see most requested more info on. Not, it's not that we haven't tried to give more info, but I feel like that there's a sentiment that gosh, we really need some more about Julie. What makes her tick, some coming of age moments to make her who she is and stuff like that.
She definitely has that, because what you see now is like this confident Julie. She's beautiful. She carries herself well.
Yep.
Right. She's tough and strong, and on her appearance, if you just look at her appearance, you would think that she's never had any problems.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Like, she looks very confident in the way she carries herself.
Sure.
And even her VO lines are like that. There's not a lot of self-doubt in there. But that wasn't always the case. I always pictured Julie as the girl who got hurt and then recovered and said, no, I've had enough. So, as a freshman, she was dating a senior, and they went to prom, and then he graduated and left and never talked to her again. Just
Julie.
left Julie in the dust, went to college, nothing from her, just completely gone, out of her life.
Well,
like this happens a lot.
Julie girl, you much better off.
Exactly. So the Julie you see now, so then she tried to find herself. Like, I'm never going to let that happen again. I'm not going to let some dude do that to me ever again. And part of her soundtrack and the playlist, 2 of her favorite songs are about that. They're about overcoming that and becoming a new person.
Yeah.
And not letting a guy ever do that again. Not a girl or guy.
Sure.
Mess with your emotions, make you feel that way, put you down, use you.
Mm-hmm.
So out comes new Julie out of this world. And she starts dressing more confident in the way that she knows. Like, she's like, okay, I'm going to start showing off. I don't care.
I know who I am.
Yeah, I know who I am.
Yeah.
And I want you to look at me and like me because you're not getting me, kind of thing. Right? And that plays into her relationship with Leland. Where, so when you get to him and you ask me about him and Julie.
Yeah. Well, we can.
Julie does like him, but she's not ready. She's trying to make him earn it, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've been down this road before. I dated the king of the school, and he left me in the dust after he took me to prom. Like, you could be that same thing. And that's what she sees in Leland. So she likes him.
She likes him, but there's still that little fear and doubt in the back of her head.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to commit. Like, she doesn't want to be like, yeah, I'm in it, and then be afraid to get hurt. So Julie is very closed off for that reason, because she's like, no, I don't want to go back to that. And if I put up this wall, I feel like we're in a soap opera here, but if I put up this wall, you can't hurt me.
The days of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Yes. So that's her story and how she kind of evolved into the Julie you see now, which is why I really wanted Scout to do her voice, because
When she did
Scout
a hell
is
of a
super
job.
confident. If you've ever been around Scout, she's confident. You would never know if something like that happened to her. Right. And I'm sure like everyone it has. But it's what you see now, and that's the new Julie. So yeah, her relationship with Leland is a little weird. She does like him, and she wants to do that, but she's still trying to figure out if he's going to hurt her, or trying to make him earn it, get to know him more. But he's like, no, he loves her. Like, he's all in. But
Jules.
she's like, hold up.
Not so fast.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of Julie came from that little relationship moment. So when we designed her character, confident, strong, she's like stamina.
Yeah.
Like, she plays sports. She's got the confidence there. So we just needed to know how she got to that part. And she got there by being stepped on and kind of used by this guy. So there was, fall for the high school senior.
I hope, can't blame her for feeling that way.
Yeah.
You really can't. That's a good segue into Leland.
Yeah. So what do you got for Leland? What do we got?
Let's see. Let's take a peek. I know there was a hub post that came out a couple years ago that Matt Chacha wrote, and it was a great piece on him. It talks about, he was kind of the king of the world in the wrestling days at Georgetown High School. He kind of, he was on that pedestal. He was a really good wrestler, and then there's like was once he got to the University of Texas, was there like kind of like this transition for him? Was it a weird transition for him? I guess because you're far away. I mean, not that you're far away from home, but going to the University of Texas, leaving Georgetown, there's a difference there.
Yeah, Georgetown's probably 20 miles.
Okay.
30 minutes away.
Yeah.
So it's now they probably almost consider it a suburb of Austin, but it's not. It's a different city. For Leland, if you haven't guessed, not a lot of characters in the game have a happy ending. So I don't know if you put that 2 and 2 together, but
wait, they're called victims, right?
Yes. So even their life has a lot of that. Their backstory has a lot of that. So yes, he wrestled in high school, and like many people in high school who play sports and they're really good, doesn't mean you're going to be able to play at the next level. So here you have this super confident guy, Leland, who has had to work for it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just get handed that. It's years and years of training to be a good wrestler. And then he figures out he can't go to college and wrestle because he's not good enough. Like being good enough in a small, being the best in a pond is not the same as the ocean.
Definitely not.
So he can't go wrestle. So now he has to go through college trying to find himself again. Every bit of his identity was wrestling in high school, and now he's just Leland.
So is it?
He's the guy who used to be Leland.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, it makes sense. So it's safe to say that when he got to college, there were some confidence issues going on.
Yeah,
with him.
and he doesn't know who he is anymore, and he's trying to find himself. One thing that people don't know, and part of Leland came from, like, I love a show called Friday Night Lights. I love the movie as well. I've seen it about 150 times, but I've seen the show, every episode, about 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's my comfort show. I put it on and watch it. There's a character named Tim Riggins, who, if you Google him, every girl will know who that is, and half the guys will. Anyway, he graduates. He's like the star, but after that, nothing. And one girl says to him one time, "Aren't you the guy who used to be Tim Riggins?" And he's like, "I'm still Tim Riggins." Or how's it feel to be the guy who used to be Tim Riggins, right? Because he was so popular and such a star, and now he's not. And that's Leland a little bit. That's what do you do after you have nothing? Everything you've had is gone, and you just have to exist. And you've had your whole identity just not taken, but you lost it in a way. So
yeah.
And now he sees Julie, and he likes her, and he's not used to that. He's not used to a girl telling him no. He's not used to some beautiful girl like Julie saying, "Dude,
he's
what?"
not used to rejection. He's not used to being the best wrestler on the.
He's not used to losing.
Yeah,
he's not used to rejection. But in a way, he's just as fragile as anybody, and that's why I needed him to fail at college, so that he can just be Leland and not just continue that star wrestler, has it all. I needed him to get turned down by Julie a little bit.
Well,
just in my head to help define the character. And to give Julie more power. To keep that power dynamic of try this again, keep going. One day when I think you've earned it enough, we'll go out, kind of thing. Right. So that's Leland in a way. It's, just a high school kid who had it all and just has slowly realized it's over.
Yeah.
Which, believe me, that's not just related to athletes.
Yeah.
That's half the kids that go to college, whether you're in band.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you studied art in high school or whatever it is. And you
yeah.
figure out when you go to college.
I don't look like it now, but I was a really good athlete in high school.
And then when you go to college, and it's either maybe you do make a team and when you ride the bench.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the worst player on the team now when you were the best player in high school. Yeah.
I can relate. I was humbled.
We're both sitting here for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally relate to Leland. One last thing on Leland. Back to him and Sonny. He and Sonny being very tight. When he was going through these transitions and these confidence issues, did he speak to Sonny about that?
Oh, yeah. And what's funny is Sonny is like, "Dude, why you listen to you complain? You had it all, dude. What are you talking about? Like, I've been on like 2 days my whole life." Right? So it's like, why am I helping you? It's like, it's totally this dynamic of, why are you complaining?
Right.
You've had it all. I've never had it. And there's that dynamic back and forth where it is funny to hear like Sonny in my head talk to Leland and like give him advice. Because now Leland, in a way, is on a level playing field.
Yes.
With Sonny, and he's not used to it. So
because it's gotta be so unique for each of them. Like, Sonny, what do you mean you're coming to me?
Yeah, I should be coming to you.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
bro?
so it's very weird, kind of funny dynamic between the two.
I love that so much.
It's very unexpected. I'm sure people didn't expect them to be friends. So
yeah,
I think you can make a whole show out of them too.
We need it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next victim, Connie, from farm town in Illinois. Illinois, right? I got that right, don't I? Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Paris, Illinois, not Paris, France.
Yeah, Paris, Illinois. Farm
It's a real
town.
place.
Yeah, it is a real place.
Not much there.
Not much.
But
and so that probably put her in a little bit of a box growing up, a little bit.
Yeah, I think when people think of farm girl, like, oh, she wasn't oppressed.
Right.
She wasn't like, oh, it's the preacher's daughter or the farmer's daughter. she has to rebel. That was never her,
Mm-hmm.
and that was never her relationship with her parents. So it wasn't like I have to be a good girl, so when I get to college I'm gonna be bad. It wasn't that dynamic. It was just I spent time growing up on a farm, and she's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 30-minute drive just to see her friends. It's like to get to the school. It's if you grow up on a farm and you have to work physically, like manual labor for everything. Hey, fix this, fix that, fix this, and you're relying on your crops or whatever to buy you things, right?
Sure.
It's a hard life, and that's what kind of gives her ingenuity of how she can fix things, and she's very crafty and smart. So even though she's this stunningly beautiful girl, like she's got that work ethic, and she can just be covered in dirt and be okay with it because she knows like the value of hard work and growing up on a farm. But it was never, my dad won't let me date, or my dad won't let me do this. I can't wait to leave.
Okay.
It's more about just imagining her thinking, is there more out there? Right. A lot
Self-discovery, if you will.
yeah, a lot of small town kids you don't get to see. You see movies, you see magazines, you're like, there's another world out there for me. If I can just get to college in a big city, I can get my life going. And really that's Connie just wanting to get out and explore and get her life moving. She feels like, okay, I got to get out of this farm. It's not because she hates it.
Yeah.
It's not because she feels like her dad's like, be home by 8. It's not that at all. Like, perfect relationship with her parents. She loves them to death. But it's just, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go to college because I know there's something more in this world for me.
Can totally relate.
So normally that'd be a happy story.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Sure.
Like, she works hard, does all the right things, gets to go to college, her dream school, gets to go to Austin, big city, infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Her whole life's ahead of her, and then just kind of made the wrong friends. Right.
It's bound to happen.
But yeah, so that's Connie. And, people always ask, I was never going to say this because it's just for me personally, but people want to know who her boyfriend is.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually,
I see it all the time.
she likes a girl. There's a girl in her high school that she really likes. And
Go Connie.
she did. And she had to leave her behind. That was her girlfriend didn't get to come. So Connie had to choose. Stay behind, like a lot of people do after high school. Do you stay behind for your high school sweetheart and derail your life? Or do you leave them? And that's Connie's story, but she's been trying to get out of this forever. And, she had another guy she was interested in too, but she just became friends with this girl, and it grew into more than that. And they just
she
get
fell
each
in love
other.
with this girl?
She did.
Yeah.
And then she had to make the decision to leave her. So once again, all of our characters have to do something. Their stories all have an underlying tone of either try to have some self-sacrifice. You have to do this. You have to overcome this.
Yep.
Or they get hurt. There's no clean victory here for anyone. Yeah. So really, that's Connie having to leave one of the few people behind that she likes and trusts.
Yep.
Just to continue living her life.
Yep.
So, and that happens, I think, every day.
I can't see the chat right now, but I'm gonna guess it's exploding.
About Connie?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So
I like that about her.
Okay, good. Yeah, so Connie is not maybe, I don't know what people thought, but, she's definitely maybe not that. So, yeah. I
love that.
Visually, I wanted her to blend in and to just, obviously she's beautiful and she's just perfect, everything about her. But I wanted something more than that. That's why she is very, very good at picking locks. And she's got that homemade skill of overcome. Hey, fix the tractor. Hey, fix this. Hey, our fence fell down. We got to fix it. We can't hire anyone to make it.
Right.
She's completely tough, but she may not look like it.
Yeah.
She's not, wearing overalls or something like you would expect, maybe. So I like the contrast of her beauty versus what she can actually do. She could put up a fence and I couldn't.
Right. Nor could I.
Right. So I love that dynamic. She kind of reminded me of Jodie Foster a little bit.
Oh,
when
love that.
When I was thinking of her character.
Okay.
About.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sorry, I never told you that.
Light bulb just went off.
So Jodie Foster has that beauty, but she's also tough.
Yes.
And that's kind of part of her vision I had for Connie. A little bit
awesome.
Because I've always loved her, and I felt she always plays these tough characters. Like even like in Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
right? Just because it came on the other day and I was watching it, but I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted, a little bit of. But I also needed her to make the
That is
sacrifice
super
of a
cool.
little bit, not just I'm going to college. I needed her to leave something behind,
Sure.
so that it meant more. So yeah, there's Connie. I really don't know what this girl looks like though that she likes.
Okay.
So once
Well,
again,
community.
well, I do know that people love creating fan art.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I would definitely
Always
not.
keep-
I definitely wouldn't turn down seeing fan art
I would not.
of anyone we mentioned today. So
Does her girlfriend from high school have a name? No name?
sure doesn't.
Well,
Because at that point they didn't want people to know.
that makes sense.
So I was never going to say it
Yeah,
because it was kind of a secret.
that's cool.
So
Cap off Connie. Is there someone, kind of the same question for,
No.
we have for Sunny. Is there anyone in the group that she's the tightest with or anything? Like,
Anna,
Anna?
but she doesn't. They're so far away. She appreciates. I mean, obviously Maria.
Yeah.
But she sees some of herself in Anna and Maria. Because she knows where they come from. She knows how hard they had to work to get here.
Right.
She relates to them on a mental level because of that.
Yeah.
Like,
And plus of Anna kind of planning this whole thing to go
Yeah.
find Maria, and they had that road trip there.
Yeah.
Safe to say,
And Connie's like,
that's my
coming.
girl.
Yeah, because Connie does talk to Maria. I mean, to
Yeah,
Anna, they'll
sure.
call each other.
Got
and
it.
Stuff. She'll say, "Hey, Maria, how's your sister?" And so it's a kind of a little sister relationship. But she does see a lot of herself in Maria and Anna. So yeah,
I love it.
they share some of the same traits.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
and we may actually have more questions for these characters at the end. I
Yes.
can't remember.
yeah,
So
we may.
If we went over your favorite character and you didn't get what you wanted, your question may be at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
So,
see. All right, moving on to Anna.
Anna, yeah. So
you touched about
Okay.
Go ahead. Just I know how much this character
yeah.
means to you.
So anyway,
go
once
for it.
again, when I was traveling around the towns, and I found consistent themes between Maria and Anna and real life people that
Yeah.
were there. I knew I wanted the younger sister to try to save the older sister,
Yeah.
and to be courageous and brave. I just love that. And a lot of people don't know that Anna, you're going to be floored. She's a cheerleader. Yeah, Anna's a cheerleader. So
Really?
yep, for the football team. Didn't think Anna was a cheerleader, did you?
No.
I know.
Not at all.
And of all the fan art I've ever seen of her, I've never seen anyone, or even the backstories, think that she was a cheerleader. Her boyfriend was a star player on the football team.
Okay.
He went away to college and left her. He got a scholarship. She can't go. He said, "Come with me." She's like, "Where am I going to live? I can't live in your dorm with you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hold you back."
Yep.
So once again, Anna, who lost her dad,
Yep.
a couple years earlier, her and Maria did. Her sister goes to college. Her family saves up money to send Maria to college, like partial scholarship, but family had to spend money. Anna loses her boyfriend, who abandons her as well and leaves. She too chooses not to go with him, and now she's still just stuck at home. And she has no prospects and doesn't know what she's going to do with her life at all. So she's seen all these people leave her life. So she's had years of working hard, obviously, to try to help Maria, because Maria's working to support her, and she's also trying to work, but she's a couple years younger, right? So you got this younger sister who is looking around going, "When's it my turn?" And it ain't. And it's never her turn.
Poor.
And that's like,
I love
that's-
Anna so much.
that's part of like I said, there's no happy endings.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have that all the time.
Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't have it for these characters. So, that's just, she can't even get to the next stage. At least Maria gets to go to college. Connie got to go to college, right? All these characters who, in our story, meet at college. Anna is just still at home, trying to figure out what to do next. Do I work and try to save up? Do I go to a different college if I can? Like, what do I do? I've graduated now.
We know she's tough physically, and she's definitely tough mentally.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
this had to affect her a little bit mentally.
yeah.
And
I mean,
that process of all, I mean, she can't pursue any passions, goals,
yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and
It's a small town, so.
like, for instance, Maria's passion was photography. Does Anna have a passion like that?
Anna's
That's,
whole existence was cheerleading and being there for her boyfriend and watching him get better and better and better at football. They even won the state title 5 months before our game takes place, because that's when the high school football playoffs are.
Yeah.
Which the Uvalde Coyotes really did win the state title that year. And that's their high school. So I was standing on that field one day taking photos, and I looked up and saw the state championship sign. And I was like, holy crap.
That's so much.
1972 state champions. I had no idea.
That's wild.
And I was like, wow. So not only did her boyfriend play on the team, but he won a state title, which helps get you recruiting. So absolutely. She gets to watch him grow up and get better and get more attention. But that also, she's happy for him, but at the same time, that means he's leaving her. So it's a weird relationship. She wants him to succeed, but that also means he's getting out of town. Yeah. He's going to college. And it's going to be far away. And he's like, yeah, come with me. And that's not how that works.
No.
You know, where's she going to live? Off campus? How's she going to pay for it? So she goes and gets some crappy job, and while he's traveling around playing football. And, you know, she was willing to do that. And he was like, or he wanted to do that. And she was like, no, I can't drag you down. Because she's still thinking about herself in that moment, even though her sisters left her.
Yeah.
And their dad died. She's still thinking about Anna. You know. So she's still, you know, she was still in that town. And then she gets the courage. You know what? I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I got to go find my sister.
Yep.
So all those things would normally maybe take a person and make them not want to help.
Yeah.
Or I'm just going to stay here, figure it out. They're on their own kind of thing. But no, even despite all that, she's like, no, I'm going to go find my sister. So that's Anna's stuff.
A lot of sacrifices from Anna.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of what you had to do. I mean, she didn't really have a choice, you know?
Yeah, other than let her sister die.
Yeah.
Right? Or not go look for her.
Yeah.
Right? Or drag her boyfriend back. No, you're not going to college.
No.
Right? So, you know, she stayed behind with her mother. She makes a sacrifice to go, no, I'm going to stay with mom too. Because now she feels guilty for leaving her mother. Maria gets to leave.
That is a lot on the shoulders for a girl her age.
Yeah.
You know?
So she's like, do I leave my mom as well? You know, so that's poor Anna.
That is poor Anna.
Yeah. So now you like her more.
Yeah.
But yeah, cheerleading, people didn't know that.
Well.
And I almost put it in her bio, but I didn't. I took it out because I didn't want that to be there.
Yeah.
I didn't want that to be her identity.
Well, and it sounds like a broken record, but I would expect some fan art.
If there's not cheerleading, if there's not an Anna cheerleader fan art tomorrow.
What do you mean?
I'm
Before
upset.
The stream's over, the next 20
maybe they're
30 minutes.
at work watching. I don't know where they're at. So, you know. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's move on to our last victim.
Danny.
Our newest one, yes, Danny.
Yeah.
Love his backstory, and I'm excited to hear more about Danny. I really, what we know about him, I think, struck a chord with a lot of folks in the community. You know, growing up
in a foster home.
Yeah.
People are like, what happened to his parents? And you know, his mom left. His mom left him, and his dad was a drunk. So eventually, he got taken away and put into a home. And there's no good story for Danny.
No.
Other than, he still did well. There's programs within foster programs that let you go to school, right? They pay for your college, so that's a thing that happens. So he gets to go to college, but that's at the expense of his shitty life.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, I get to go to college, but only because of how shitty my life had been and the people had left me.
Sure.
So, he's got no real parents to speak of. He's not well equipped to handle things in life all the time, but he is handy. Like, he knows how to do things with his hands. He knows how to fix things. He's into cars and things like that. So he's a hardworking kid.
Yeah.
He's just never had the family support, because they've been pieces of crap.
He's a tough SOB.
He's a tough son of a bitch, right?
He is.
So, and he gets to go to college. And then when he meets Maria, that's when, because of her dad passing, they kind of find some comfort in each other. So he meets them because I think immediately he met Leland, like in that group.
Okay.
And, because, hey, tough guy, wrestler, blah, blah. And they, they're just hanging out, being bros. And then that's when Leland meets Maria. Danny's like, who's that? She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Come on, dude. hook me up, right? Like, so that when they met and started talking about their backstory, immediately, you can just tell. You see it in their eyes. You know, they just knew.
Yeah.
You know, those are things you can't hide, right? So he knew what she had been through, and she knew what he'd been through. So they immediately clicked. So yeah, her and Danny met because of their tragedy, I would say.
Yeah.
You know,
It linked them together.
yes, it gave them a reason to keep chatting. Right. So where are you from? Where'd you go to school? And he's like, well, I did, but I didn't. Where you live? And she keeps prodding and prodding and prodding. And finally, he's like, listen, I ain't really got a home. Right. I came from a boys' home, and my parents left me. Is that what you want to hear? Like, because, you know, she's interested in him, and she wanted to know all about him. What's your parents' name? You know, blah, blah, blah. Right? Yeah. Because that's what you do when you meet someone. You're excited to get to know them.
Of course.
And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And then she's like, well, my dad passed away too. And so there's that link.
Yeah.
So
and her opening up probably allowed Danny to open up. And
yeah. So then people also want to know how he got to the slaughterhouse, or to Nancy's place.
Yes.
And how he didn't go.
Yeah. And I've also seen why he didn't go on the wildfire.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So why didn't he go on the wildfire trip?
Wildfire
It's because he didn't think to do so. You don't expect the person that you're seeing to never come back.
Yeah.
To drive around towns and take pictures of wildflowers, you wouldn't think, I better go with you and safeguard you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things where you say goodbye to people you love every day, and you expect them to come home.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll be back in a couple of days. And he's like, want me to go with you? He's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about it. I need to just take photos. I want to do it. It's like a me trip.
Yep.
You know, I want to just exist. And he's like, okay, that's why. There's really no crazy reason other than the fact that
he was just letting his girlfriend just was
it's not a dangerous trip.
Yeah.
It's just driving around,
taking pictures of some
hill
wildflowers.
country.
Yeah.
Taking pictures like people do every year during that time.
Yep.
But the reason he's not with the group of kids
on the road trip,
when they go to find, because he already left.
So he left before our other victims
Yes,
did.
because he wasn't going to wait.
Wow.
Anna's like, I'm coming. I'll be there in a day or so. And he's like, I'm not waiting. I'm going there now. I don't care. I'll meet you there. Right. I'm not waiting. My girl's missing.
Yeah.
I've waited long enough.
Don't blame him. I would have done the same thing.
So if you notice on Nancy's map, behind her house is a salvage yard. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Matt can attest to this. One trip in particular in Texas, we noticed a lot of houses that were houses, but behind them were either junkyards or salvage yards.
Yeah.
And that's a typical, like if you look up junkyard or salvage yard, it's usually owned by like a family or something in a small town. It wasn't always a place of business. It was a family who started a business, who lives in the house, and now behind them, hey, go back there and look if you need a fender or something for your car. So Danny knows that her car was found. He knows the police found her car, but he doesn't know where it's at. And the police aren't talking to him about the investigation. So in his mind, he thinks, if I check salvage yards, maybe her car's there. And maybe I can find something in it if I can sneak in. So there's only a couple salvage yards in town. Obviously, the family's not dumb enough to leave her car there because they don't have it anyway. But in his mind, he's like, okay, where can I find clues? Where do I even start?
Yeah.
If no one's helping me.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't go to the gas station first. Like he just went in town and they're like, yeah, the salvage yard out on 402. He sees her house. He sees the backyard, obviously.
Salvage yard.
So he knocks on the door and is like, have you seen this girl? You know, and then that was going to lead to, yeah, I'm looking for her car also, blah, blah.
Right.
So really that's how Danny makes that connection. It's a prayer. It's a shot in the dark. It's a shot in the dark on, he doesn't even know if that's going to work. So
yeah,
he leaves before the rest of the kids because he refuses to wait. So
I think it's time to move on to family.
Let's do it.
All right, let's roll through. Let's go. This question, I believe, was from someone. Who's the most sympathetic of the family?
The cook.
Yes.
I mean, I think most people would agree that the cook, because he shows it in the original film.
Yep.
He even tries to warn the guys, you know, Jerry and Kirk.
Yeah.
You don't want to take those girls around that house, right? He tries to talk them out of it because he just doesn't want the trouble, right? And he feels sorry for the girls in a way. And I don't think he feels sorry for the guys. I think he's like, don't take those girls up around that house. They don't want to be there.
So he's the most sympathetic, but why
Because
does
he's the
why does he show the most animosity towards the rest of the family?
So yeah, that's another question. Why is the cook? Because he's dealing with a bunch of idiots.
Bunch of bullshit.
If you're 70 years old or whatever the age is, and you've been dealing with these idiots for the last however old they are, so imagine like a dad
Well, bash that Johnny upside his gone, don't
who's just had enough, or a grandpa who's had enough, or anybody who's just had enough of all the idiots that are around him. So if it's not the hitchhiker causing problems, running around doing God knows what, hitchhiking around, digging up people. Every time he comes home from the gas station, he's got to figure out what the hell happened.
Yep.
He's got Leatherface at home. He's got Grandpa at home. Like, it's a circus. And now he's got Sissy and Johnny. Johnny's out doing God knows what. He can't rely on Nancy to like control him. No. So that's why he has such animosity, because he's tired of dealing with them. So every one of his voice lines mostly are in that funny, and it's in the movie too. Like all those VO lines of the cook yelling at Hitchhiker and Leatherface.
Yep.
That theme we carried over because we didn't want to change his character, and I was never going to step on Kim's characters like that. And all of a sudden, the cook likes the hitchhiker.
Sure.
So I kept that consistent with the film, and it makes him funny.
Yeah.
But in the reality is, he would be upset because they're idiots.
Well, and truth be told, you just said it. He is. I mean, I don't know what that says about me, but the cook was my favorite character. From the
because he's
original
funny.
film. He's funny as hell.
Yeah, his one-liners are funny, and even in the second movie, he's got tons of dealing with Chop Top and
absolutely.
He's like he can never catch a break. And really, that's why the cook is so fed up. Yep. He's just trying to run the gas station. Yeah, they're eating people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a business, and he's trying to run a business.
And business is good.
And he's got idiots. He's surrounded by idiots. So, in a nice way, right?
Of course.
Every day is something new. So he's had enough.
Yeah.
So that's why he's so mad.
Well,
I wouldn't want it any other way.
We're gonna break down. Let's break down the three original family members that we have that you created here. We got about probably 20 minutes or so left. I don't want to rush through this, but at the same time, we are kind of on a clock here. Let's start off with Sissy. I know she's one you had a blast with her conception, and there's a lot of mystery and unknown things about her, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be, is the way I've always understood it. But man, just speak at length on Sissy and give us anything cool you could.
So Sissy came from Kim's character Bible. He had a name and he had a paragraph. So if you don't know about Kim's character Bible, it's a book. We call it the character Bible. Yeah. Of all the characters he's created for the franchise, especially the first film, and all the characters that you never saw in the first film.
So this character Bible goes back legit 50 years.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of characters he wrote for the first film that aren't in the film.
Right.
And no one knows about them.
Yep.
Unless you've seen this character book.
Mm-hmm.
In there was the name Sissy Sunshine Slaughter, and a paragraph about a family member who rebelled against the family, got caught up in the LSD craze 60s, rebelled against the family, and hitchhiked and went around like all the other kids in the Woodstock movement, in that whole freedom, go find yourself movement that the teenagers or 20-year-olds at that time went through.
Sure.
So she got caught up in that, and honestly, she's tired of being, what are you doing today, blah, blah, the cook yelling at her. So she's a free spirit anyway. So she's looking for a way out. So that was all we had for Sissy, was that one paragraph. And it was at that point where we obviously, I got to come up with the design, what she looks like, what she's wearing, her personality.
Sure.
So, I took Kim's name and a paragraph and created Sissy from that. And I love the idea that she was a drifter and that she was doing stuff the hitchhiker was doing, but far away, and not as crazy, at least on the surface.
That's
so
sure.
We needed a really, really beautiful face, which is where Kelly Mittendorf came in. I wanted her to be beautiful so that she could hitchhike and people would pick her up. So she uses truck drivers to get around. She knows how to use people when she needs to. Yeah. And she's walking along, hitchhiking. A trucker's going to pick her up, right? So slowly over time, that doesn't always work out for him because she appears normal, and then 3 minutes after talking to her, you make the wrong move, or try to put your hand on her leg, all of a sudden you find yourself with your throat slit. Right. So there were bodies that were being found along the way of I-40.
Carnage.
Yeah, there's a radio broadcast about the terror of I-40, and they're talking about Sissy, and it's the I-40 corridor between Texas and California, where she had traveled, and there's even people that survived. That there's a radio broadcast about a survivor who had an encounter with her, and they have descriptions of her, and like people at truck stops would be, watch out for this girl. She became a thing, but they really couldn't catch her. So
A lot harder back then to do
yes,
so.
like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Spawn Ranch was a well-known thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a secret. There were a lot of people that came and went from that place. There were kids there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the people that committed the murders.
It was a large community.
Yes, there was a large community, and Sissy was just one of those a few people that were there, or one of the many, I guess. And she left before the murders happened. So she was there in the community while they were creating songs and doing all that, and there when he had his visions of grandeur about all these things. But like Sissy, she can't conform. So even in that scenario, Sissy cannot be controlled. So there was a lot of friction and fighting, and she had to leave. So that's why she didn't hang out there for all those years. And thank God she left before the murders, or she wouldn't be back home. She may have been caught.
Sure.
So, and then she bounced around a couple more places after that. But that was the backstory we have for Sissy. And that's where her singing the Manson songs came from. We knew she was there during the time period when they were coming up with the songs and singing around the fire, doing crazy kumbaya, right?
Yeah.
So we knew that she knew the songs. So that was kind of how that personality kicked in and where we got that from. But yeah, then she eventually had to come back home.
Yeah.
Because she ran out of places to go. And now she's back home with the family. So.
And she's back home, and last thing on her, I'm assuming this probably happened when she got back home, but do you want to give us a little bit of the backstory of how she even obtained this bride Sissy dress?
Oh, yeah. So just like her normal dress that she's wearing right now, she took that from a person that she killed. So Sissy was not getting married.
Sissy based.
There's a poor dead woman somewhere who was getting married and ran into Sissy in their house. Sissy kills her and just goes through her stuff and says, look at this pretty dress. And then puts it on and imagines that's her getting married. So bride Sissy is not.
It's not like it's her wedding day or.
No, it's a dress she took from a person she murdered.
Got it.
So there's one less bride and wife in the world because of Sissy. So that's where that idea came from with her dress. And Rob, we have some old photos of Sissy. So along the way, like I said, I create lots of stuff that I don't use. Or Sissy evolved over time from looking certain ways into the way that she looks now.
Sure.
And that occurred over the course of a couple of years. You want to pull up like Sissy, Rob?
Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Well, this is a new one. But yeah, so you can clearly see the wedding dress there. So these were some dress variations. And you're probably looking at her leg going, what the hell?
Is that like a mechanical leg?
Yes. That's a prosthetic leg.
That is cool.
And at one point in her early conception, this has Kelly's face on it, which came later because we wanted to see what it looked like. But we felt that was too close to Vilmer.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering why Sissy has a mechanical leg or a prosthetic leg, it's because at one point we thought that might be cool, but then that would take away from her maybe, it's tough traveling and, stuff like that. So we didn't want her to that be her identity.
Sure.
I think it's more descriptive.
Yeah.
Right. So we kind of, and honestly, Kim was like, that's too much, too close to Vilmer. So we took that off, but it shows you some variations, and I wanted to show you because there's the bride Sissy dress. At one point, we were going to I had an idea to maybe make that dress her default outfit. I scrapped the idea because I really love the flower cross on the left because it looks like an upside-down cross, kind of.
It does.
The way the flowers move. And I love the way that dress looked on her, as opposed to something like a wedding dress. But I put that dress up because I wanted you to see the contrast. And this image goes back years. But ultimately, I scrapped it. and I just didn't do it. But when we were talking about new costumes for her and new designs, we went back to this list and said, okay, now we can do the wedding dress. Now's the time. So then it's like, oh, where'd she get it? So then we tell people where she got it and the backstory, and they said, let's do it then. So really, the wedding dress is something I had in mind for her a long time ago. I just scrapped it because I wanted that black dress on her, because I just loved the way it looks. And at one point, yes, she had a prosthetic leg. And you'll notice she has shoes on.
Yeah.
And boots.
Yeah.
So we were exploring a lot of different ideas for her but ultimately, Rob, next one, if you can. Yeah, ultimately, see, there you go. I narrowed it down to combat boots, kind of like this little sneaker and one boot, and then barefoot.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I thought the boots were trying too hard. And then I thought the one shoe and the one boot was just too obvious. Like she couldn't even in her mind know that she put two different shoes on.
Right.
So I went against that because, I don't know, visually it was you see that girl hitchhiking, you're like, I'm not picking her up.
Right. No,
Why she got a boot on and a shoe?
Yeah.
It's just another tell that something's not right.
Sure.
So barefoot, oh, she just lost her shoes.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
Yeah.
Look at that poor
She needs
girl.
help.
She needs help. And that's where I settled on barefoot. It wasn't because I like bare feet. It wasn't because I like dirty bare feet.
Sure.
It was because I don't have a Tarantino foot fetish.
Right.
It wasn't that. It was just because I felt like, oh, that poor girl. She needs my help. Oh, she's walking barefoot? Pick her up. So there's some evolution of Sissy. Rob, there's another one. And this was we were trying to figure out how short we wanted the dress and how low the cleavage was going to be. It gets, the dress shrinks as it gets to the right. But as you can see, it's very subtle. So we had different necklines that I was experimenting with, different lengths, different amount of tears. But I decided on the original one was always the best for me. It was just, it was classic. It fit in nicely. It wasn't trying too hard.
Yeah.
We didn't need to oversell like her. She's already just beautiful. We didn't need to go, hey, now the cleavage is low and now you can see half her butt hanging out because there's a rip. We didn't need to go down that route because she already was perfect. But at one point we did think about that.
Yeah, you're right. She does have this, and Kelly gets a lot of credit for that. Just a unique beauty, you know?
Yes, and sometimes you can go overboard with that and try too hard.
Yeah.
So this was me going, wait a minute, what's it actually look like? Let's make it so I can see it visually to know that I don't want it. Yeah, so there's another one too, I think. There's some really old designs of Sissy. This is going to blow your mind.
Ready?
Yep. So,
Holy,
long time ago.
I have never seen this before. Wow.
Here is a blonde, non-Kelly Mittendorf version with these baby doll kind of dresses on that. But once again, they have shoes and socks on, and that dress, those type of dresses were very, very popular.
They were.
And I didn't want to just do something that you had seen before. So while this looks awesome, I ultimately still decided that that black dress was so unique. I hadn't really seen it before.
Sure.
Whereas these I'd seen everywhere in that time period. A lot of models wore these. You know, the pigtails were very, very obvious. Right. And I didn't want her to be too much Harley Quinn.
Good point.
So I steered away from this, even though I love this character.
Yeah.
I still wanted to stick to the black dress. So next one. Once again, dark hair now.
Oh, wow.
So it changes her completely, and she's got these ripped stockings on. But once again, she has shoes on. And these dresses are not unique. I mean, they're cool for the time period.
No,
and they're cool now. They're cool now that you see them because they're different.
Sure.
But when I compared them to her black dress with the flowers, and I wanted to tie in the flowers.
Yeah.
There's a constant theme of wildflowers in our game.
There is.
Sissy uses the flowers. The flowers are what links Maria to Johnny. The flowers are on the map. It takes place during wildflower season. So that's really part of the reason why I stuck with the dress.
The flowers are almost a character within the game.
They are, and it fits Sissy. So even though I like this stuff, and I always did, I felt the other one was better, and I wanted really just that to happen. So, yeah. Is that all of Sissy?
Yeah, I think that's...
Or no, it's one more.
We got one more?
Yeah, and at one point I had short hair.
Oh, wow.
And there's the, the prosthetic leg,
Yep.
which was still an awesome idea. I love it. but Vilmer. We didn't want to
Yeah.
step on Vilmer's toes.
Yeah.
So we had to cut that. And there's one boot, one shoe.
It was probably for the
yeah.
best.
But yeah, like the short hair version was always kind of cool.
I like the
I
short
picture
hair,
her
actually.
cutting her hair with that razor
Dude, I
to get away from the authorities.
totally see it.
So along the way, that was me envisioning that her changing her look on the fly.
While she was...
You know, like everybody who's looked in the mirror ever and shaved their head thinking
Sure.
that that's going to stop the authorities from finding them in a movie.
Yep.
When they just cut their hair in the mirror. That
Yep.
scene.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So there's a little, I wanted to share a little bit of pre Kellen Mittendorf, pre Sissy as you know her, the evolution of her from the first time we thought about her until now, and all the thought process that goes into the character. So all the other characters pretty much have these as well, but we're not going to share them all today. I just wanted to look at Sissy because she was a tough look to nail down. But once I found Kelly's face, and Wes did his magic to do all the legal work to get her face in a game with her, and she was on board. That really, her face in that dress and the no shoes just works for me. It was perfect for me. So, yeah.
We're gonna be working overtime today.
That's fine.
We
All right, here we go.
very rarely get you in here, so
right.
we'll roll through the rest of this. But we're on. Let's move on. I think
Johnny? Yeah.
Let's move on to Johnny. It's no secret that the community has really glommed onto this character.
You think?
Yeah. He is a TikTok sensation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there is a portion of TikTokers out there and people who are obsessed with Johnny and haven't even played our game yet.
They like the way he looks, and they want to make thirsty reels out of him, which is fine. So which is funny because we have this obsession with serial killers, right? We have an obsession with good-looking serial killers, and that's a thing that I'm not going to get into because that's a whole psychological thing.
Yeah.
Right. It would take me all day. But that's a thing.
It literally would.
Yeah. That's a thing that exists on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's for female serial killers and for male. We're attracted to things like that. So along the way, when I was thinking of characters for Johnny, I was like, who's he resemble and what's he look like? And I knew I wanted him to be Ted Bundy, to be able to go out into the world and exist without you knowing he's trying to kill you. So I needed him to be able to have that facade. So, and then there's part Night Stalker, who wasn't as attractive as Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Like teeth were
Richard Ramirez, right?
his teeth were like half. Yeah, when he smiled, you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah.
He wasn't well maintained.
Yeah.
Right, but I tried to create a mixture of the two. Someone that was lethal, but it could go out and exist in small towns and spring up here and there and not set off a red flag.
Right.
You wouldn't know he was following you until it was too late.
Yeah.
And if he was following you, you wouldn't be maybe that scared because you're like, oh, it's that guy again. So Johnny came from a lot of research on serial killers. One little story I've told like two people ever. At one point, Johnny didn't talk a lot. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't outgoing.
Okay.
He wasn't completely the narcissistic guy that you see today that's talking to you while you're dying and laughing at you and, walking around looking for, and you're like, I know you're here. He's a very confident guy.
Yeah.
Talks a lot. And that wasn't always Johnny's personality. A long time ago, I had Johnny very cold and calculated, and he wasn't saying a lot. And I wanted him to be more evil and less relatable. Right now he's kind of like a mixture of Billy Loomis from Scream, where he's just shit talking to Neve Campbell, right? You're playing with her, and that's what he does a lot. And a lot of that came from Billy Loomis, but that's a very outgoing character.
Yeah.
He wasn't always like that. And here's the story. So the Texas Killing Fields, there's an area, in League City. If you've seen the documentary, The Texas Killing Fields.
Oh, on Netflix, yeah.
Before that came out, on one of my Texas trips, and I don't know why, I researched way too much and went to real locations where things had happened, like cult-wise, serial killer locations, places like that. Just to try to figure out, just do research. And it was too much, right? But I did it anyway. And I was like, you know what? there was a phone booth that they mentioned in that documentary that I wanted to find because I was near that area. I go, I'll find this. So I think I know it's on Main Street, and I think I know where it is. And I get there, and I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I have this little book that I don't have on me where I write all my ideas down in. I was trying to figure out what Johnny was. And the phone booth is different. It wasn't actually there. It was moved a little bit, and it's a new gas station. And I look over, and it's at the corner of Main Street and Hobbs. which is my last name. Literally, I did not know this.
What?
I looked over and I see Hobbs, and I'm just like,
That is
this
freaky.
This is messed up, and this
That
is too weird.
Wild, dude.
And it was at that point where I was like, this is enough. I'm done. I don't know what it was about seeing that side street named Hobbs, Maine and Hobbs. I'm like, what are the chances that my last name is 10 feet from me? And I'm sitting there trying to look at this damn payphone. For what? This is stupid. This is too much, right? So it is that point where I go, you know what? I don't want to make him that cold and calculated. It was too eerie.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at the area where, like the field, the main field where they found a lot of those victims, I was like, I don't want to play into that anymore. I want to turn Johnny into this boisterous, outgoing character who can hide some of the fact that he's a disgusting dude behind some of the lines and
So that's
laughing and smiling. Because at one point he wasn't.
Right.
And it became too cold and too calculated.
Yep.
And when I saw that sign,
That's when
I was
pushed
like-
you in another direction.
yes, I was like, that's overboard. So it's a funny story that I never really told anyone. A lot of people who don't even know the story. But yeah, just weird seeing that. And that at that point, Johnny took a turn to be more outgoing. He's still saying some nasty stuff,
Yeah.
but he's, I don't know, there's something about him that works because people enjoy the way he talks and messes with you and plays with his food and the hunch.
Yep.
It's almost so overboard
Yeah.
that it takes away from the coldness in a way.
Yep.
So that's how he happened. That's how that happened, because I looked over and saw a damn sign with my name on it while I was looking at a payphone where the serial killer would watch people at a payphone, and that's how he would track them.
That is absolutely.
It was just so weird. I was like, okay, dial it back. So we have some old photos of Johnny that people are going to laugh at. Rob, you want to pull them up?
All right, get
So
ready.
Johnny went through several variations too. Here you go. And look, so this is kind of like one of my favorite movies is The Outsiders.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. And Matt Dillon.
That's wow. Yeah.
This is,
I see it.
I always loved that character. But what's funny is if you look close, he's got Maria tattooed on his forearm. And for the
Nice touch, Ronnie.
for the longest time, I had a side story in my head where he really, really, really liked Maria. Right?
Like genuinely like.
Yeah, so I wanted to see what it would look like if he did a homemade tattoo. Now, that wasn't the tattoo I was going to use.
Right.
But if you're wondering why there's a Maria tattoo, it's because I wanted to see it, and I wanted to maybe explore that, but it was unreasonable. Like, it wasn't going to ever really occur. It wasn't going to happen. It was kind of just a pipe dream, and I wanted to experiment with that.
Yeah.
Like, what if he did want to leave the family?
Yep.
What if this was her that he found that got him out of that life? But that's not how serial killers work. They don't all of a sudden just go, oh, I like that girl, I'm going to quit being a serial killer. It may last a year. It may last 2 years.
Yeah.
And then they go back to killing.
Hell.
So it was a pipe dream. It's a fairy tale.
Serial
but
killers have
I'm
had
sure
lives for decades, and we're serial killing during their marriage.
Exactly. So I always thought this, and plus this is really too good looking. Like, this guy is really, really kind of suave, and
He's definitely leaner and more.
Yeah.
You know, like especially in the abdomen.
so he just
area.
didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like, but I love it, but it didn't work
Yeah.
for me personally.
I agree.
So there's another one, I think. So here's some old sketches of faces, and you can see the one we're going to use at the top left. We did use, but this is where I was like, okay, I need him to be more friendlier looking, but I didn't really know. I started down a path of like, to me, the guy on the right looks like someone you would see at a gas station, like in a small town, right?
Right.
So it was that innocent looking face that you wouldn't know, that you wouldn't particularly know he was going to kill you. He could fit in anywhere, right? Whereas I needed him to be darker, though. I needed him to be more brooding,
Yeah.
which is where Johnny on the top left comes in. So we went through a lot of variations of face, a lot more than this. But this was almost his face. That bottom left one was almost his face in a way. But it just wasn't cold enough. You know, I needed him to be a little bigger, a little stronger, a little more menacing looking, a little more cold. Like, look at his eyes up there and look at the guy on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
The guy on the bottom looks like he may be up to something, but Johnny up
He's
top,
more inviting.
yes, he's more friendly.
Yes.
So I needed more cold brooding. So eventually we did land on that top left photo. That hair's not the same. I forget where that hair. We went through like 400 versions of hair, but yeah, it's funny that Johnny almost looked like one of those other people there, because we found a lot of like old photos of like small town Texas gas stations, and there was always just like a regular looking dude in there helping, right? Some 20-year-old dude in there helping, who didn't look evil. He didn't look nice. He just in between, just hanging out in between. And so, yeah, ultimately, though, Johnny, to me, his face is where I wanted it to be. And it took us a long time to get there because I didn't really know what I wanted.
Sure.
But, yeah, we messed with a lot of different variations. So, yep. What else? Is there another? One more? I forgot. I don't even know what this is. What is this? Oh, here you go. So a little story. Johnny was going to be shirtless the whole time. So I was going to launch the game with shirtless Johnny. He never had a shirt on. But however, I could never personally get the muscles where I wanted them. I just couldn't figure out what I liked. So it wasn't even an art thing. It was me personally. I could never get him to look the way I wanted because I didn't know what I wanted his muscles to look like. So
That's gotta be a little frustrating in the creative process.
It's frustrating because I'm like, he's not perfect. He's not perfect. I can't get him perfect.
Yeah. Then you start probably getting your head a little bit. And
yes, I go, let's play it safe and put a shirt on him. And at this point, I didn't know what shirt I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted the standard white tee that you see at every gas station or a shirt that's cut off.
Right.
So ultimately, I went with the shirt that's cut off. But there's his old body. It's kind of beefy. A little bit. It's not the same body we have now, but I figured people might enjoy.
Definitely still in shape, but just a more step in the dad bod direction.
Yes, and less ripped, but there's still some muscle mass.
Yeah, I mean that.
But it's funny to see this photo now because
I would kill for that body. You kidding me?
That white T-shirt was always something that it was very obvious. It was very James Dean.
Yeah,
it was very 1950s.
Gotcha.
It was very obvious I feel like Johnny would have found a T-shirt and just ripped the sleeves off. So that's why we settled on that look. And then eventually I go, you know what? I think someone mentioned shirtless Johnny somewhere, and I go, you know what? Let's do it. So after the game came out and we found our footing again, and started releasing DLC. I was like, okay, we're gonna go do shirtless Johnny. So, but at one point he was gonna be shirtless. It's just, I had to change course and put a shirt on him just because of my own personal skill level could not get him where I wanted him to be. So, is that it for Johnny? Yep. Okay, cool.
All right, just got a few questions about Johnny before we move on to Nancy.
Yep.
We know he was taken by...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? So
yes.
About what age...
Oh, yeah, there's good stuff for Johnny.
So let's go back to the...
He's a toddler.
Yeah, so he's a toddler.
He's a toddler.
And what happened when he was
He doesn't remember it, obviously.
Obviously.
So Judith, his mom,
okay,
they were traveling through.
Judith?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was when the business was happening. Salvage business with Nancy and her husband, one of her husbands. So
what happened to him?
She's like, this is a place of business. I'm lost.
Right.
I'll knock on this. Looks safe because there's flowers and it's well kept. And it looks like a business because it was a salvage yard.
Yeah.
Before husbands died and Nancy closed it down.
Sure.
And it is what you see today. So rewind 20-something years, when Johnny's a toddler, it was a different place. So she feels safe enough to stop and ask for directions because you either have a map or you don't.
Yeah.
Her and Johnny and her mother were actually leaving. She was leaving his dad.
Oh.
So he was abusive.
Okay.
So she was leaving him and took Johnny with her to find a better life. I know. Unfortunately, she stops at Nancy's house.
Is there a happy ending?
No, no one has a happy ending, my man. This is not Disney Channel.
This is the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
So she says, okay, I'm traveling through here. I'm looking for this other town. I think I'm going the right way. Let's stop and ask. Right. So they stop. And one thing about Nancy is you ask, if you want to talk, after fast forward real quick, then go back.
Yeah.
Nancy's husbands could never give her what she wanted, which is a baby. They all failed. One by one, and she killed them for it.
That's pretty cold.
Yeah. I mean, she wanted a kid.
Wow.
And turns out
that's some deep shit.
Turns out she's the problem, not them. But she doesn't know that because
you
don't get tested.
Wow.
It's 19, whatever it is. So she's blaming them.
Yeah.
And one by one, none of these husbands can give her a baby. She wants her own little kid. And it's hard to go out and kidnap a kid, I guess. So she doesn't go out and just take a kid, right? You get caught. So she blames husbands, knocks off the husbands one at a time. Finally, here at her front door is a baby.
A beautiful
dark-haired little baby. Unfortunately, it's got a mother with it. So she's like, yeah, come on in. And Nancy ends up killing her mom, Johnny's mom.
Yep.
However,
Judith, right?
Yeah, but not before Johnny's mom hits her in the eye with something and blinds Nancy in that eye.
So that's how she got.
So that eye is a souvenir from Johnny's mom.
Wow.
Before she went out.
There's been some good fan art of that eye.
It's not fully blinded, but you can see.
Yeah.
So yeah, Johnny's mother gave that to her as she went out. So then Nancy has a baby. So there's another question, I think, maybe you're going to ask it.
Yeah.
How does he ever find out?
Yeah.
Does he know?
Is he aware of what happened to his mother, who his mother even is?
Yeah. For the longest time, he didn't know because he was a kid.
Yeah.
He has, you know Dexter, right? Obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Born in Blood.
Yep.
That whole flashback where he doesn't know what happened, but he feels like something happened. He
Right.
has those memories.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he hangs out with the hitchhiker. Okay? All the time. So you think the hitchhiker...
It always comes back to the hitchhiker.
You think the cook and the hitchhiker is going to keep that secret?
No.
Especially the hitchhiker?
Can't keep it.
So the hitchhiker teases him. That's not even your real mama. Mama. You're not part of the family. Your mom's dead. So the hitchhiker...
So hitchhiker.
He lets it out of the bag. So when Johnny gets old enough, he's stewing, right? He's 10, then 11, then 12, then 13, and 14, and 15, and he's growing up and being a big, strong guy.
Yeah.
That she slowly taught how to kill and to manipulate and turn him into the monster he is.
Yeah.
He confronts her, gets mad, and was going to try to kill her. He's had enough, right? He, like any teenager, he lashes out, and then she cuts him across his face.
Is that how he got?
That's how he got his face scar. He stepped up to Nancy, and she put him in his place when he was a young teenager. So, he
a strict mother, guys.
he did. So, but yeah, he found that hitchhiker sees him about his mom, that he told her the truth.
That little shit.
Yep.
He's
And
such
then
an asshole.
he confronts her, and then there's a confrontation. Johnny's kind of throwing her around a little bit, and Nancy, because she's cold, and she puts him in his place and beats him and cuts him across his face and says, "If you don't want any more of that, I'd quit." And Johnny's not fully huge yet. He's still a kid,
Yeah.
right? At that point, and it's the only mother he has. So
That's all he knows.
So Johnny is torn, and if that's a question that's coming up, it's how does he feel about Nancy and their relationship?
Yes.
He knows.
What's
but
that
at this
dynamic
point?
for him?
It's Stockholm syndrome. At this point, he's in the family. He's eating people.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
He is partaking in the cannibalism.
Yeah, and that was a question someone had. to be
Yeah.
honest.
That was from your IG. They want to know if he eats.
Yeah, and yes, he does, but it's not a thing he seeks out to do. It's because it's just ingrained in the family.
Yeah.
He enjoys the hunt. He enjoys going out to get away from Nancy. There's also that dynamic. The more time I spend away from this lady, even though she's my mom, even though she did what she did, I'm kind of stuck here.
Yeah.
Or he can do the sissy route and leave. But in a weird way, he doesn't. He still comes and goes.
That's all he knows.
Yeah, that's all he knows. It's like figuring out your parents are a serial killer. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So yeah, that's where Johnny's face scar came from. Oh, and someone had a question about the other scars on his body. Those are all from fights. Either the victims fighting back,
Mm-hmm.
TMI.
Mhm.
If you study choking victims,
Yeah.
usually when someone chokes someone, they extend their arms so they can't claw your face.
Yeah.
So any of the scars you see on his upper body or chest,
From strangulation.
yes,
Yeah.
you never just do this. You
Yeah.
keep them.
It's true.
You tilt your head back. So that was also a moment where I was like, I'm not looking at this anymore. Just to get a scar right.
Right.
But some of the bigger scars are from fights. He fights dudes. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Johnny's out getting in fist fights, getting stabbed in the back by people, getting, roughing up in a bar, getting bottles broken over his head and back. So yeah, a lot of those are self-defense from his victims, but a lot of them are just him fighting. Getting in situations he has to fight himself out of. But yeah, the one on his face is from Nancy.
That's
Yeah,
wow.
she's evil. That's what I said. Even her her bio says even monsters have makers. Right?
So on brand.
So, you know, and as whatever you feel about Johnny,
Yep.
she did it. Nancy's the real problem. Like, she made Johnny.
She did.
So he's just some innocent kid who got, which I like the sympathy. Like,
Yeah.
there's always, what happened? Oh, that poor serial killer. I'm going to write him a letter in prison because what he went through as a kid
Yeah.
determined what he is now. Poor baby.
How they're so intertwined. We've actually covered
Yeah.
a decent amount of Nancy while talking about Johnny.
Yeah.
You know, the whole dynamic of them is. I know the community. I know I see it all the time. There's always questions about their connection and
Yeah, the family connection.
yeah, and all that. Like
Well, here's the deal about
Nancy to, like, you know, I'll just come out and say it. There was a trailer and there was a shot.
oh God.
The community caught it, and you know, I laughed when the community, because y'all can be funny sometimes. I got to be honest. But at the end of the trailer, there's a shot of the cook and Nancy sitting next to each other, standing next to each other.
I mean,
Are they by any chance? What is the connection there? Are they an item?
No.
Okay.
The hitchhiker and Nancy are not banging. Okay. Okay. Look, how many family photos do you have of people in your family standing next to each other? A million, right? Look on that wall.
Yes.
Like,
I can
just
just
because
tell you.
he's got his hand on her shoulder because they're part of the family.
My job, you know,
Yeah.
our job every day in communities, you know, is to interact on the social and
Yeah.
talk to
I don't-
folks. And the reaction I saw, one of the first comments I saw was literally, "Wait, is Cook and Nancy?" And I'm like, "No."
No. Okay, and they do eat people. Okay, so it's not a stretch to be like, oh God, how dare they have relations?
Yep.
But no, they're not.
So what is the association?
Here's the thing about Kim Hinkle. So
Yep.
the reason, look back at the original film. People go, I'll get to Nancy in a second. People
Yep.
say, who is the cook? What's his relationship? What about Leatherface
Yeah.
and the hitchhiker? Kim didn't want you to know. Now, all we do know is that hitchhiker and Leatherface are brothers.
Brothers.
Because we hear the cook say, look what your brother did to the
Yes.
door. Not look what my brother did.
Your brother.
Not look what our brother did.
Sure.
And they don't even say, where's your grandpa? Or take him to our grandpa. All we know is he's grandpa.
Yep.
We don't know if he's their grandpa
We don't.
or some dude's grandpa. It's not the point. He's just grandpa. We just know Hitchhiker and Leatherface are brothers. So we don't know what the cook is.
Yeah.
People assume that he's like the third brother or the dad,
Yeah.
but it's never said.
He's not.
The cook doesn't say, hey, son.
And honestly, it works in the film.
Yes.
And I think it works in
And
the
he doesn't
movie,
want
too.
people to know. So talking to Kim, what I didn't want to do, he's like, Sissy just is. You don't know where she came from, and I want to keep it that way. She could be the cook's daughter.
Yeah.
She could be a niece. She could be anything. And Nancy continues that trend of she's just part of the family. Okay? Some people might be like, oh, she's the cook's sister. Or is she Sissy's mom? Right? Clearly not, because the way they talk to each other.
Yeah.
But he wanted it to be just ambiguous. They're just a family, and the less you know sometimes, the better. We know.
Yeah.
You see these horror movies that explore
absolutely
the kid's origin, and you're like,
No.
it's too much.
the
Mystery.
The less is more approached in the first film that Kim was going for. I think I like
we
it.
kept that throughout the characters for the most part.
and that is carryover. To
Yeah,
the game,
I didn't
is
want.
what
I
you're
would
saying.
never step on his characters and all of a sudden tell you that the cook is the dad. I would never say that because
Sure.
that's not what he wanted.
Yep.
And it's not up for me to say.
You're not going to say
So-
Cook's the brother either.
No, and any new characters that I come up with, if I feel like they need a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister, I'll say it specifically. But yeah, I'm in the mindset that we don't need to know because I wanted to be faithful to Kim and his characters and that world and that lore. So yeah, but no, they are not having sex, sir.
It's good to know.
Okay?
Okay, we've settled that finally, community.
Yes.
Cook and Nancy,
Nancy has several husbands that are dead.
and we've seen what.
So she didn't need the cook.
You think she loved any of those husbands, or was she just?
No,
using-
she did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's psycho.
Yeah.
So define love for a psycho. She loves him because she needs him.
She needed a child.
Yeah. And when they couldn't do that, she got rid of them. So, yeah. Is that it for Nancy? What are the questions on there?
There's a couple more here.
All right.
Because we are about to close up shop here, guys. But
We'll go over the final list of questions.
For sure. There's a few left. We actually hit up a good amount of them.
Just to make sure.
Let's see. I guess talk a little bit, because we definitely got to get out of here. We're running up on 2 hours now. We're about 20 minutes over schedule. We started right at
It's okay.
Yeah, we're good. The dynamic relationship between what is really that especially everything you've touched on with Johnny, things he found out, the hitchhiker blabbing his mouth. You know, what is that relationship like? The dynamic between Johnny and Nancy.
I think it's
from each side, I guess.
You ever heard a teenager, even though Johnny's not a teenager, where a mom or dad's like, "Sweetie, let's go," and the teenager's like, "Hey, fuck you, mom. We gotta go." Sorry. You know, and then the mom's like, "Oh, sweetie, don't say that." They're oblivious to getting stepped on by their kids. So there's a lot of that, of Johnny telling her, "Be quiet, I hate you," or you know, it's a rocky, volatile relationship because
it's understandable considering that Nancy killed his biological mother.
It's not just, "Oh, I love you."
Yeah.
Now she is. Johnny, don't say that.
Right.
Johnny.
That's why I said both, because it's
baby, don't say that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's rocky because Johnny knows what happened, and he'll never forgive her for it. But at the same time, he still exists in that world. So what's he gonna do? It's either leave or deal with it or kill her. So maybe one day he does kill her. Who knows?
Stay tuned for that.
Who knows? I mean, he's a cold-blooded killer at the end of the day. So just like Sissy, you push him too far. Speaking of love, I will want to clear one thing up.
Sure.
The word "sweetie."
Yeah.
Someone asked me, in our game does not mean love, by the way.
It does not mean love.
No, it's like your grandmother. They think because certain characters say, "Oh, sweetie."
Oh,
sweetie.
Yeah, that's
It's a Southern term of endearment. It's the way that your grandmother would say, "Oh, sweetie, it's okay."
Yeah.
To a kid, or a parent may say, "Sweetie, calm down."
And
it's really a term, an old term.
It is.
It was used in the 50s,
too.
60s, 70s,
Correct.
and 80s. So if you're not from the South and didn't grow up in that time, I can see why you think it would mean love. But yeah, a lot of our characters call each other, "Sweetie, calm down." "Oh, sweetie," right? It doesn't mean that they're lovers. It just means they care about each other in a protective kind of way. It's something you would say to coddle someone and try to be like, "I got you. Sweetie, it's okay." Not, "Hey, baby."
No, it's definitely not that.
So I just want to clear that up because I know people have been thinking about it for a year or two now.
Yeah.
Because they hear it, they see the VO lines, but yeah.
No, that checks out. But yeah, in the South, especially in that time, like you said,
Yes.
going back
I
to
mean,
the
my
50s.
grandmother called everyone sweetie.
Same.
I mean, sweetie, sweetie, hey, sweetie, hey, sweetie. Like, it's just a thing that was there. Yeah.
I'm going to get to a couple questions that you had from your Instagram, and then we're going to close up the shop because I'm sure everyone out there is not too happy with us. So let's move on.
It's 5 o'clock.
Let's move on. This is actually a good question. How did you come up with the family members' abilities?
Oh, I mean, I'd start with their looks and figure out. I know Johnny's easy because I want him to be a stalker and a predator.
Hunter.
So him tracking people makes complete sense, right? Because that's how he would find you. The cook's old, so hearing aid. Plus, he would know the entire map completely because he's one of the oldest members. So I feel like he would pick up on creaks and cracks.
Sure.
So that's how we did the noise. Sissy, flowers. What can she do with the flowers? What did she do with flowers? That was always a thing. Oh, grind them up into a poison.
Yeah.
So, and then it's the hitchhiker. Of course, he would be making gnarly traps out of bones and stuff because that's what that freak does.
I like Johnny's line. How do you make those weird traps?
Yeah, how do you make those weird ass traps? Yeah, exactly. So it's a visual thing. It's a visual thing that plays into the way they look.
Yeah.
What is the thing that that works for gameplay based on? So you have lots of ideas for abilities, and you narrow it down to one that fits the look of the character. Nancy in her eye. And Nancy pulling out barbed wire because that's something that she would do because she's insane. It's the opposite of what she looks like.
It's true.
So really, that's how you come up with it.
That's super cool.
It's part visual, and what works for gameplay.
Yeah, obviously.
So,
yeah, because
not to gloss over it.
Can't ignore that.
Not to gloss over it, but yeah. And also the victims also have things that tie into the personality. Toughness for Anna. Picking locks for Connie because she can fix things on the fly, and then Julie,
absolutely,
stamina. So Sonny, highlighting, using his smarts and his wits. Those are all just character traits, the way they were written, trying to show that in the game world visually. So yeah, once you have the character's bio and what they are as a person,
Makes that so much
makes
easier.
that a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out what works and what's too gamey, not too gamey, where's the line at. So
Yeah. One last question we had here is so pre like the first film, right? Pre our game, pre Sally, for instance, from the first film.
yeah,
Did anyone ever escape the family?
no, or else they'd be caught. Now, Johnny has gone out, and we know he's failed
Yep.
because the Pflugerville incident, where he got his scar in his shoulder, there was multiple girls in that house. He thought there was one. He wakes up and all of a sudden gets stabbed by a friend. And,
Yeah.
So those two people know they survived,
Absolutely.
right? And Sissy has survivors. Like they mess up when they're out away from the house. But
That's
no
how
one has.
mistakes happen.
Yes, exactly. No one has survived the house
Got it.
encounters. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people who survived out in the wild who know what Johnny looks like and they know what Sissy looks like. But once again, there's no internet. Well, when the police ask you what they look like, you tell them. But okay, there's no database,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot back then.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no one survived. Sally's the first to leave the family house, which is why it's not there in the sequel.
That makes sense.
Yep, Sally's solely responsible for them going through the tunnels.
Yeah.
in part two.
For running.
Yeah, they had to leave
On
because
the
she knows
run.
she knows where the house is.
Yeah.
And they're on the run. So
Way down there and whatever
Yep.
they say in the movie.
yeah,
But dude, this was a lot of fun. Before I get you
that
out
the
of here,
last
I have one request. Please never give Cook a horse in the game. Can we never do that?
the good news is we're not going to do any horse tech.
That's
so.
good. There's a little meme
Yeah.
going in with the community. Cook must have horse. Cook have horse. No, Cook's probably not going to get a horse, y'all. So
Yeah, and that is all the questions. Yeah.
yeah, we hit them all.
Oh, Danny and Anna.
Oh, yeah. You know,
Are there relationships?
yeah. Are they?
Here's the
tight?
deal, because they haven't met very much in person.
Okay.
After the tragedy, it's only been a couple weeks. They haven't had time to get closer. So you would think that after a tragedy like that,
Sure.
your sister's missing, my girlfriend's missing.
Yeah.
We grow close over time.
Sure.
And if it was months and months and months, they certainly would, because people find solace.
We
in-
didn't have months and months.
No. So
or they didn't. I should.
they
say.
didn't.
Yeah.
So they only had, about a week before they start going, oh God, she's missing. What are we going to do? And yeah, they're talking on the phone and trying to console each other, but they don't have the time to nurture that relationship that usually happens
Right.
when someone goes missing and the brother and this other person or the sister become close.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would. Absolutely. He would be trying to take care of her.
I believe
Danny
it.
absolutely would.
Especially someone what he's been through.
If he didn't go to this house and there was a different story and they got close to each other,
Yep.
Danny would absolutely try to take care of Anna.
Love it.
And completely be the big brother and make sure that she was good and taken care of. So he'd be at their house talking to the mom and consoling them. And he may have even moved there.
Sounds like a happy ending.
Yeah, well, I said if.
That's a if. Fair.
If.
Fair. I tried to squeeze one out of you before we got out of here.
Nope.
Not happening.
That's
Not
it.
happening.
Okay, I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap this up. We went over about a good 20, 30 minutes here, but we tried
It's
to.
fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
And I don't get to get on the couch very often, so.
Yeah, the fact that we got you here to join us, we couldn't do this stream without you. Period. So
I hope I answered everyone's questions.
I hope so too. I'm
Yep.
sure there'll be more coming through eventually. Who knows if we can ever do something like this again down the road, but
Very cool.
yeah, just a lot of fun. And to the community, we appreciate you.
Yep.
Spend your time in Texas. Join us for this stream today. Be on the lookout for our social channels at TX Chain Saw Game on the Twitter and Instagram. And, of course, check out our community hub. Our great community manager, Sid Silva, has written up some good stuff on there lately. So,
And if you got good concept art, make sure you send it to me.
yes.
I'm only on Instagram, though, Ronnie Hobbs. I want to see it. Like,
Yep.
Send it to me as a message or tag me or something, because
You heard it.
if you send it to Andy, he may not show me.
I share. That's fair.
He
I
may
gotta get in
hoard,
the habit of.
he may hoard it.
Well, I share it a lot with everyone, but sometimes you were busy, and
Yeah,
I gotta get in the habit of sending you stuff directly. But
Yeah.
thank you guys. Be on the lookout for news and updates on our social channels. I'll see a lot of you in the gun Discord and the TX Chainsaw Game subreddit. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care of each other, y'all. Be good.